yeah, it's just, I don't know if I'll ever fully understand free solo slacklining, and I don't think I'm supposed to. Part of why I made the film about it is me just being fascinated that there's people out there that are doing it on this level without fully understanding it myself. Hey friend, my name is Levi. I'm an adventure filmmaker from British Columbia, Canada. We're inside my production adventure van, and I would like to tell you that the scariest thing that I've ever filmed is free solo slacklining. Free solo slacklining and slacklining in general was started by climbers, so a lot of the climbing language translates over into the slacklining world because the same people that were climbing big walls were also then slacklining on the weekends, and especially those like Dean Potter, who really pioneered the free solo craft. If you are unfamiliar, slacklining is obviously between trees. You balance on, a stretchy piece of webbing. Then it's taken up in between two cliffs. And normally you have what's called a leash or a tether, and you're attached to the line itself, so that way when you fall, you dangle like a little rag doll. If you haven't had that experience, I can highly recommend it. It is terrifying. And free solo slacklining is when you then remove that tether, so that way the only thing keeping you from falling to the ground is either staying balanced on top or grabbing the line with your hands. And of course, this is just my filmmaker perspective and opinions. If you have questions for Spencer, we're going to do a follow-up video like this where Spencer gets to talk about free soloing and react to some of the comments that we've been getting on our film. One thing that's interesting is a lot of the commenters seem obsessed with comparing it with the big wall free soloing that Alex Honnold does. And rightly so. That is a reasonable comparison to automatically make in your head, because there's not many other things that are called free soloing. And it is hilarious to me when people criticize free solo slacklining because it's using the same terms from climbing, because I mean it was started by climbers, so it's like you're mad at climbers for starting free solo slack. Like, it's just a little bit funny. And one thing I've observed being around people who do free solo climbing and free solo slacklining is there's a mutual appreciation across the two, and neither of them want to do the other person's thing. And no one is really spending a lot of time comparing the two in so much as difficulty, because they're so absolutely different. Let's break down some of the shooting and mechanics from a filmmaking perspective. And obviously, if you've seen Jimmy's interviews where he's talking about filming Alex on El Cap, I do not envy their filming process whatsoever. The amount of preparedness and detail execution they had to have to film a big wall being soloed without interrupting Alex as he climbs it is immense. And I do not envy the amount of prep that they had to put into this, and how they were basically just on standby for months on end, waiting for at any moment for Alex to go, oh hey, I'm gonna go do it. And I've actually never known ahead of time when the free soloing was going to take place. This is not a thing I was ever told. This is not a thing like, oh hey, by the way, Levi, I'm about to free solo. There's only one instance that I discovered the day before something was going to happen, because it was just so obvious what Freedy was intending to do, and I did not like knowing whatsoever. That was my least favorite thing, because I'm just so in my head about my presence impacting the actual moment. So knowing ahead of time, I don't like that. That's just not my favorite thing. I've missed the whole start of free. Like, sometimes you just look over and suddenly someone has their harness off and they're free solo. And usually I'll just take my handheld camera and grab some clips, and everyone on the cliffside kind of goes quiet observing this go down. And it is really interesting to see that happen in person. And normally afterwards, at some point, I'll have a conversation with that person and go, hey, how do you feel about me using that footage? Or what do you want me to do with it? Because I want their involvement. I don't want them to feel like I just stole clips of this intense moment they had, and then I'm just going to throw it together into some video. And there's been several walks where the athlete or whoever did it asked me, hey, I don't want that to be seen, and I delete it. No problem. It's just whatever. Occasionally they're like, hey, yeah, no problem. It's fine. That footage can exist. People can see that. And when Spencer did that the first time, I completely missed the start of his free solo walk. I had no idea what was happening. I'm going to share the story of that in a moment. But Later that day, I had a conversation. I was like, hey, if you do that again, how do you feel about me filming it with more cameras and more angles? Like, are you good with that? He expressed, hey, it would be really cool to get drone stuff. That wasn't even on my mind. Like, I wasn't even thinking, oh, hey, I should drone this. Spencer brought it up the very first time I ever droned any kind of free soloing stuff. It was something that Spencer brought up, and that just shot my nerves like to the ceiling, because it's one thing to be holding a camera on the side of a cliff, and it's another thing to be flying a thing in the air as someone's doing that. So some ground rules were created pretty quickly, and part of that was I did my absolute best when we did aerial shots while soloing was happening, never to enter the line of sight of the person on the line, because this has now occurred several times. And it's just a personal principle when I'm operating on the sticks to make sure that I'm not getting in the line of sight, because I really don't want to even risk the possibility. I'm not gonna lie, it's stressful, but I do get drawn in kind of this trance of focus mode. I'm very aware of everything at the start of it, and my adrenaline's so high, my heart rate's high, but like I just start following what Spencer's doing out on the line, and it's my own little micro version, so we're close to what he's doing, but I feel like I'm there with him looking through the screen, and so I'm breathing and I'm trying to calm myself, and I'm trying to just like enter into kind of a zen-like state. And usually partway in, it does kind of feel like you're in a bit of a flow state, capturing what's going on, which maybe that just sounds really weird, but that's honestly what it feels like. Okay, some other stuff about free soloing. One of the big mistakes that I used to make was, because drones are sometimes used, the sound is just completely ruined. And what we had to do, because I hadn't thought of it at the time, I had to later, months later, come back with sound recorders, put labs on people, put little recorders on people with mics and stuff, and get them to walk high lines again, so that way I can get the atmospheric sounds of lines slapping together. Especially in Spencer's case, he's pretty intense when he solos. Like he uses like yelling expressions when he's out on the line. And specifically, the world record line that he walked was very, very aggressive. But we don't have audio of that because it was just the drone. So we had to rebuild that experience in post to try replicate what Spencer was actually doing when his mouth is moving, and trying to line that up as best as possible. The truth is that with small team filmmaking, it's hard. There's a reason why on movie sets there's departments that look after each aspect of what's going on in the whole big picture, is because, you know, all these layers that go into making a great visual experience for an audience are complex, and there's a lot of layers to learn. And my advice to people starting out is to not be so afraid that there's things that they're going to mess up, to just go out there and mess them up, to then learn what they are, but then learn quickly. So the quicker you can make a lot of mistakes, once you've made those mistakes, if they were painful enough, hopefully you will start making them less. And thankfully, one of the mistakes that I wasn't making at this time was great updates to my website, getting ready for the launch of this film. And that was creating a website with Squarespace. Previously, I'd been using these different, more complex services to try build a website, and it felt like it was so easy to break, and it was very hard to get it to look like what I actually saw in my head. And so when I actually tried out Squarespace, they've got this drag and drop visual editor, and that just worked with the way that I think. So I could click there, place a video, and then hit save, and that's actually what it would end up looking like on my website. I didn't need to know how to code, I didn't need to know how to program a website. And because they've got templates as a starting point that are made by people who actually understand web design, you've got a really good foot forward for customizing it how you want to use it. So using their system, I was able to get a beautiful site up and running, and that's where I pointed people to when I told them that, hey, we're selling tickets for the film. Hey, it's gonna be online to watch soon. Hey, do you want to purchase a 4K download? All of that was done through my own website. So actually having your own website that you have control of is very powerful. And I highly recommend, if you haven't given it a shot, head over and try a free trial. And then when you're ready to commit, make sure that you use my code for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Let's talk about what it feels like to film free solo. So what you need to understand is that I had never seen video of Spencer himself walking free solo. all I had was secondhand conversations with other people. So when someone's saying, yeah, I free solo and that kind of thing, you don't always believe. Like, of course I knew that he did it, but my brain couldn't process what it would feel like to see that unfolding in front of me in real life. I was really nervous that Spencer was going to behave in a certain way with my cameras there. And it became obvious to me pretty quickly that Spencer just does whatever he wants. He was not concerned with what I was doing at all, which was kind of a nice relief, because secretly I started to hope in the back of my head that, like, hey, what's going to happen if he does solo this summer when I'm around? Like, I honestly did not know that walking a line solo was something that Spencer did semi-regularly, and that there was a really good likelihood he would do it when I was present. So how the first time it happened unfolded was I was up on this rock filming Spencer on a line called Dean's Line. And I was still so new to understanding highlining that I didn't understand how free solo even worked, in the sense that the reason why someone like Spencer is willing to walk a line without a safety is not because they're willing to fall off and fall. It's because he's so confident of his threshold of balance that if he walks a line that's very easy within his ability, he knows that if he doesn't push it too far outside of his balance, like, as you're bouncing on a curb, you get that moment to either stay committed to bouncing on the curb or hopping off the curb. So that's kind of like when you're just outside your balance threshold. You could fight it and try to stay on, but then you might fall and crash into the ground because you've overcommitted. So when Spencer is walking a high line that is easier than what he can currently walk with a leash, so it's much easier, he's within this threshold that if he goes too far to like one side, he can make a choice where he's still in control of his balance to lower himself and grab the line as his safety. Anyhow, I'm filming Spencer on this line called Dean's Line, named after Dean Potter. He's the guy who rigged it originally. And Spencer is behaving in a way that now I realize what it was, but at the time I had no idea. And that was, he was walking very specifically with a lot of control. And what he was doing was getting his mind ready to free solo. And one of the steps he did to get ready was taking the highline leash off of his harness and tying it around his ankle, just the ankle.
When you're tying into the highline, you want to make sure you do a figure 8 follow through around something secure, either a belay loop, your own belt, or maybe just your ankle. Looks great to me.
So obviously you don't want to fall with just a leash on your ankle. That could twist your leg, it could maybe pop it out, dislocate it. It would be very difficult to climb back. You don't want to fall, but there's still that level of safety. So when Spencer was tying the leash to his ankle, I still hadn't put together in my head that what he's probably going to do next is take that leash off.
Hey Levi.
Hey Spencer.
You want to get married? This is the definition of marriage right here. The old ball and chain.
Spencer walks to the other side of the line after that ball and chain joke, which I still think is just hilarious. And then he proceeds to tie it off his ankle, and I thought he was done walking the high line at this point. I'm on like a rock spire, and the only way to get down from that rock spire is climbing down the backside, and you have to hold on to the high line anchor stuff to kind of do it, and it's a little bit, otherwise you fall. It's a little bit hard to do with a camera and stuff in your hand. So I was being cautious, and I was turning around to go down, when all of a sudden I realized that Spencer is getting back on the high line, so I don't want to fiddle with the anchors at all because I don't want to mess that up. And then I realized he's getting back on without a line attached at all. So here I am, Spencer in front of me, getting back on the line, completely free solo, and I would not have ever chosen to be on that spire in that moment for the first time filming free solo highlining. I just never would have chosen that as the option. I had my camera in the wrong setting mode because I was so nervous. It was in 720p, and Spencer proceeds to walk the line free solo all the way over to the other side. And as he gets right up to the end of that, he's basically within arm's reach almost. He like stops and he like looks up at me.
I love it. It's fucking so good.
My stomach just like dropped. Like I could have melted into a puddle of anxiety and just fallen off the cliff. It's just like very, it's a lot to take in. Seeing that in person, it's a lot. And then when Spencer got off the line there, and I like turn and I film this moment with him as his adrenaline just explodes, and capturing that moment, it's pretty clear in that raw moment that Spencer is experiencing something from free solo slacklining that is a pretty powerful experience. And that moment with him on that spire is my favorite moment from the film, because I feel like you, as a viewer, you very much question why would someone do something like that. And I don't know if you ever walk away from the film with the answer, but that moment with Spencer on the edge, there's definitely a glimpse into why he's doing it, and the personal victory of keeping yourself in that much control in those circumstances. It makes a lot of sense that most people have no desire to ever do that, and even so much that I don't criticize people that think it's completely dumb. Like, if they think that, that's fine. But it still is fascinating that there's people out there like Spencer who do this willingly for fun. Like, that's so interesting to me. Even though I have no desires to do it myself, that is still a fascinating concept that Spencer does this for fun. What is that all about? You know, like, what does that even mean? I don't even know. That's it for this one. Thanks so much for watching, and remember, life's better when you make stuff. Peace.